what does it mean when you say I? Something like that.
It's a description of what the body's done, really. So, but it's when I say I, it's always a description of what the body's doing, or the way, or what the body said.
You know, because like if I say I, then that for me that's me as identifying with me, and I think I'm speaking for myself, and you know, so it's kind of so it's hard to get a sense of what I is when you say it, when it's not, when that's not an identity. I as an identity.
And there can be loads of talking about me, like the body, or what the body's done, or where it's been, in a really normal fashion, but there's just not this energy anymore that's saying that is who I am. It's just part, you could say part of who I am, or it's part of what's happening, but it's not limited anymore to that. It's just a part. And the character, tend to call it the character. The character is always appearing and disappearing. So when nobody's asking me about the body, or when there's not thinking about planning or anything like that, then there's no character, there's no body, there's just this. And then somebody says, how was your day yesterday? And there comes Lisa again.
Okay.
So then when that disappears, it's really funny. When I used to naturally speak for a while without saying I, but then society needs you to say I, really. I was a bit of a weirdo.
Yes.
It's more of a convention.
Yeah. You like the Queen and say one.
Yeah.
There's one here tonight. One has left the building.
I also notice when I write to people, I sometimes forget to put I in. So I'm saying am instead of I. So I go, instead of saying I am, I'll be like am or we. And then when I read it back, I'm like, you weirdo, Lisa. And then I correct it back to.
It's interesting thinking about the character dropping, because that's something I noticed, like with Tony a lot, and I noticed it with you as well, like that kind of vacant look.
It really is.
You know, like
absolutely empty.
Like Tony it's like he shuts down. Like you can almost hear like. Yeah, you can hear the kind of.
But then it comes back again when people ask about it or interact.
Yeah.
And then when there's chopping vegetables, that's all there is, and the vegetables are it. And then somebody goes, "Are you enjoying that, Lisa?" And you're like, yes.
And back to just chopping vegetables. Yeah.
Actually, when I was in India recently, you see, all of this is such bullshit that's coming out. I was in India, but it's what happens. It's part of what happens with this human communication. It doesn't happen.
But that body was in India.
The body would seem, the images are coming up of the body being in India.
Okay.
But when I was in India, we began to notice, I was with two other friends, that if you ask a lot of Indian people, particularly the people that aren't really westernized, so like the taxi drivers or people that tend to be more serving you, if you ask them personal questions like, are you enjoying this? Are you happy? Or how are you? Like particularly how are you? They find it really hard to answer because they're not focused on themselves. They're more in doing and action. And so, and you can see them, like, we kept trying this, are you happy? We'd ask them and they'd be like, because
it does not compute.
Yeah, or how are you? Or did you have a nice day? And they're like, because in the West, it's so important, our happiness and who we are and where we are and our enjoyment and our feelings. Whereas there, it's more life. There's less identity and it's more life being lived. So they're not focusing on themselves very much. And then when you say, did you have a nice day? They're like we used to ask our taxi driver all the time. It's a bit mean. Did you have a nice day? Or did you have a nice time? And you could see, like... And then eventually he'd do the fake answering of like, oh, yes, yes. But it is a weird thing, rounding up like that. Like the rounding up of emotions and the rounding up of a whole day. Or, are you happy? I mean...
How long have you got?
Every moment of every second, are you happy? It's like asking a kid that when you ask a child, they're like...
It just feels like that gives a good kind of sense again of that kind of how there's just no need for character or identity or self.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just no. It's that superfluity.
Yeah.
Superfluous. Yeah.
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 And it's only needed really for the communication side of things. But then that just that act of communicating, then that became who you were. That communication of what the body's done. It was only ever needed for, and then the West, we're hilarious because we started focusing on feelings, how we feel, our thoughts, and it's not that it's wrong, but it's just this whole inward focus that doesn't exist really.
Yeah. It's kind of making it. It's bringing it into being.
It's making it's making a whole film. It's like concentrating, when a bee stung you, and you're like, and then everything's just that sting, and then when someone starts talking to you, it's gone.
Yes.
Or it's the same with we're so obsessed with who we are and what we've done, and are we happy, and what we're going to be doing 10 years. You ask an Indian person that, and they're just living, these people that I was speaking a lot with, I hadn't really noticed this so much. I've been to India so many times. That the taxi drivers just you can't get mortgages and money like we can in the West, so it's just about earning the money and paying the bills day to day. And it's like, what are you going to be doing this time next year? And he's that's really abstract, but for us it's like, well, let me tell you what I'll be doing next year. How much time do we have? And in our society, even though the word society is doing that now, like that word in society is just spontaneously appearing now. It didn't exist before it was said. And all those images of learning society and all these words and all the moments that led to this are appearing now, which is absolutely amazing. But back to what I was going to say, something, I think it was like along the lines of the obsession of the story of who we are, where it's so irrelevant to what's happening. What's happening is what's happening, and all the worry, the anxiety, the problems all come from that obsession with ourselves. And we think that the obsession with ourselves what will make our lives better. We'll improve ourselves and get there. And it's just going back to what happened at birth and in young childhood, except with intellectual thinking or complicated thinking. It's just being, just doing, just living, without any ideas about ourselves. But then complicated thinking can still arise, but it's just arising in the moment. It's no longer who you are or what you do, or it's just appearing and disappearing. And when it's not there, there's just carrot and peeling. Even beyond those words, it's just energy.